What's going on? What's going on? Peace and abundance. Peace and abundance. This is Cosmic Mind. You is where you need to be. And as you can see, I got some special guests, Trey and Buddha E. You understand me? I greatly appreciate their presence. Let me go and turn the music down. We got something for y'all, real special, and we gonna get it rolling. Let me see if I can get this music turned down, y'all. Cause my signal gonna be the signal gonna be fighting us today. Okay, damn. Okay, peace, bro. Rules. Let me get out y'all way. And you had a presentation, a musical presentation, and then we'll get ready and start the show.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Give thanks. Respect to the ancestors. Ashe. Ashe, oh.
Peace and
Look,
abundance. Peace
so,
and abundance. I appreciate y'all. I
give
appreciate y'all,
thanks.
Rules.
Give thanks.
Can y'all do an introduction of yourself real quick before we just go in?
Sure, sure, sure. I'm Buddha Eternal. Peace and love, family. I'm Brother Trey. We
Okay.
basically been
Um.
in the walk.
Okay.
We've been in the walks for, what we say, about how long? About 13 years. Yeah, 13 strong. So, yeah, give thanks though.
Okay, this is going to be a special show, y'all. Everybody, make sure you share, subscribe while they're doing their presentation. I'm gonna be sharing myself as to spread the great elevation around. This show is about the highly coronation, also aspects of the mind. Part one: how to refresh your mind and different things of that nature. So, Neharus, I wrote a few notes down just to keep us I guess topic based on a few things. So, aspects of refreshing your mind. The first one was meditation helps reduce stress and promote inner peace. Did y'all want to elaborate on that?
Sure. As far as reducing stress, and the relief that we look from, there's so many ways of the avenue. I'm gonna let my brethren throw his in, and then I'll go on top of that. So you got something.
All right. So as far as reducing stress and achieving inner calmness and peace and meditation, being for that, yeah. So meditation, it's go. Let's start basic with just like a definition of it. And meditation is fixed concentration. Now, if we take the word meditation itself and do etymologically break it down, you got med, the tate. So med, we know that's in the middle. Med means middle. Now, when we get into the middle, what middle are they referring to when we talking about the middle? Is it just like the symmetry, like a center of our body, or is they talking about like a organ, or they mean like as far as your center, metaphysically speaking, or your mystically speaking? So the center is this the focus. The center is the fulcrum. So whenever we're meditating, we're looking to achieve a fulcrum point where we don't go to any extreme, whether that's considered like quote unquote left brain, right brain, or anything like that. It's actually it's supposed to be a way to regulate the breath into different chambers of the spirit or the body in order to achieve a certain state of mind or a certain amount of hertz, wavelength, brain wavelengths basically. Now in Greek, they're gonna use terms like alpha, beta, theta, delta. So there's ways you can manipulate your breath to achieve those particular brain wavelength states or trance states.
Absolutely. And to add on, you have gamma ray. So gamma ray, usually you'll find out is mainly in a lot of our movements where it comes to any type of radiating energy coming off of our electronic devices. And they're so high in frequency that there's also a low in that frequency. So if we are learning the low in the frequency, gamma is another way of saying from its hyper, we call it a hyper point, to from where we get hydro and hypo. There's a difference between it where we get hydra. And you can get a hydra state, and that's through like how we would say through bodies. You have certain bodies you can jump into, just like the hemisphere of your brain. So if I was to say on a regular 4 cut, they would call it, alpha, beta, theta, delta, and that's why the missing part will be gamma. Add your gamma, you can see that the generation of our people now, they're learning a lot about gamma right now because of the radium, the what they call it, the uranium crystals that we learn in transformers, the what they call that box, the Tetris sphere box that they put. The Tetris as a box being put in Avengers, Wonder Woman. There's so many things now that you're learning. The shapes are helping us guide a little bit stronger. Okay, we got a bee out here today. It helped guides us into how do you get deeper on meditation, just like this bee that just flew down. Let me show you that. The bee right here. Just flew right here on the ground. You know what I'm saying? That's a frequency. You being able to be tapped into your frequency is like the higher level too as well when you're in the meditative state. That your melanin is that strong, just like copper. Copper also helps with that in meditation.
Cool, fella. Okay, so just to elaborate a little more, I heard Trey mention music and megahertz. So also to the listeners, to refresh your mind, we also can listen to music, can refresh our brain cells. Um, why is it important that we listen to music at 432 megahertz and up?
It's important because of many things. Let's do one. So one aspect of it is that it's about resonance, right? So we want to resonate at the same vibration of what we want to. I don't want to say what we want to achieve, but what we'll say alignment. So the idea is basically being aligned. So the calmness and the peace comes from alignment. Whenever we're not in a line,
Excuse me, real quick. I don't want to cut you off. Can y'all adjust the camera so they can see your face? They're unable to see you. Pardon so. All right.
okay, all right. So It's about resonance or what they call attunement. So that particular hertz is a certain attunement to a certain frequency, just to keep it fundamental. So it's a certain attunement to a certain frequency you're looking at. And if you want to be in attunement or alignment, that's where the inner calm or peace is going to come from, being in alignment. Whenever we are not in a line, we form an imbalance, or we become out of line, it becomes a disorder or dis-ease. So we're not at ease. So the way to calm our minds down, refresh our minds, and to be at ease is to attune ourselves. So that frequency you mentioned, that's one of the ways to do that.
Yeah, you got those hertz. You have a negative hertz, and then you have a healing hertz. So once you get past the 432, you actually get into where the healing started. So some of us are not in tune with it. You know, like I said, with frequencies that are so high that it's really on a low, and that's how the low starts to get to your high. Like your bass, that bass right there, everybody can hear this. But when it gets to a high pitch like this, not everybody can hear that. They'll keep it at a bass tone to help people, you know, at least get familiar with it. But if just like how we think about church and the school settings, they took a lot of that bass tone setting out of the picture. So it makes it harder for you to really catch on to the right frequency that's going to be healing you if it's about negative.
Cool. I greatly appreciate that. So now for the listeners, once again, this is the part of the show we're talking about refreshing the mind and different aspects of the mind. Um, is there a difference between the brain and the mind? Is there a difference there?
Yes, the distinction between the brain and the mind is one is local and one is non-local. So the brain is a local part of our physical structure. The mind is a field of energy and consciousness.
You got something, Buddha E?
You left that one. If anything, you
Okay,
can say
okay.
like location, like you just said. It reminds you to say that, you know, how your mom and your dad said, you know, have you lost your mind? And you be like, no, because that's in your thought. And then you be like, well, they said, well, you better find it. You know, and you're like, well, where is it? I don't know where it's at because it's everywhere. Your mind can be anywhere. And really your brain, like I could take a piece of your brain and you actually survive. But I can't take a piece of your mind and you still survive. You could go insane without your mind.
Okay, so to get more into that, the mind side, how do we practice quieting our mind? That's absolutely one of the ways to refresh it. How do we? What are some ways to practice quieting it?
The way to practice quiet in the mind is to find what some refer to as a drishti. So you find a focal point, because what we don't mind don't matter.
Mm.
So once you have a particular focus that you're aligned to, a focal point you're aligned to, everything else starts to subside and quiet down. So that's what goes back to the very fundamental definition of meditation: fixed concentration.
Yeah, you got Buddha state. What they call a Buddha state is Christ consciousness. And then Christ consciousness is an anointment. So just like you feel the yolk of the egg, that's what you're doing. You're creating a yoke over you that you're in what they call a lucid, like how you got Lucy. Lucy was showing you she had at a point reached a non-emotional feeling. Even though it had emotion, she had to learn her feelings from her emotions. And that's where you get this state of consciousness that is basically like how we call it Christ consciousness, to where you're no longer thinking of negative and you're no longer thinking of positive to create it. You're just a part of it. And that's how, you know, you find this, you know, what we call the supremacy field. It's just like being out here right now and we're at one with the water, and we can see the waves even though we're not in the waves. We can see it, you know what I'm saying? And it helps that calmness. Sometimes you got to come out of your box. Look at how this looks. Let me just show you right quick. You You heard that bird? That's a bird of confirmation. You're looking at water movement. You're looking at the world in its own type of, harmonized value. You start to feel what they call it as supremacy. You start to feel that way too, being at one with the universe. So once you're, at a point of saying I can be calm and serene, as my brother was stating, it gives you back to saying you just now reach Christ consciousness, or Christ consciousness awareness, without even saying that it's consciousness.
I'm gonna get to the diet soon. So I know y'all have some elaboration on this one. How important is deep breathing? And then I got we might have to do part two because I have a few breathing techniques that I like coastal breathing and different type of lion's breath and different things of that nature. So how important is breathing to refreshing our minds and our brains and things of that nature, overall health
We just talked
or
about it.
purposeful breathing?
So the importance of deep breathing is to proper distribution and atomization. So you want to atomize the breath. So you want that breath to get to, really it comes back down to brain health. So you want the oxygen to oxygenate the brain. Like you want the oxygen to reach into the upper parts of the brain. So we basically have four brains as far as in our head, not the brains that we can call like the stomach and all that. 'Cause the stomach is its own brain too. But we're talking about like in the local brain. And the head is basically four major compartments of it. You can call it the R complex. You can get into your what they refer to as mammalian brain or cerebral cortex and frontal lobe. So whenever you engage in deep breathing, you want to make sure that distributes to all the vital places that need to go for the highest optimal function. If we breathe too shallow, the oxygen distribution is lower. That's why a lot of times people don't have a good sense of rationale whenever they're angry, right? Or any kind of excited emotion. Right.
Those elements right there are needed and necessary. They're known as elements in the Western world. In the Eastern world, they had those same elements used to be in what we call alchemy. So that's why it became five and not just four. Uh, our basic knowledge now, we're accepted by the word fear, fire, earth, air, and rain. And we've seen it in the book saying fear God, yet we don't supposed to fear God. You're supposed to see what the fear of God is in all things. So now using too much fire or not using enough fire, using too much air and not enough air, using too much earth and not enough earth, using too much water and not enough water. When we call it water, it's really reflection, it's rain. The rain is what we call what can be wet to our mind, just like it's water. We don't call wet by itself. We would have to have that as what it is as a description. I got that from Asir, how you would call it water, because you're not going to say, I'm going to drink wet, I'm going to drink water. So you're actually bringing, as he stated, the four hemispheres of the brain back to man. Either man is at his highest self or his lower self. And then there's the bird and the reptile in our mind, how we think of what we're thinking of. So now you do have four of how we say crisscross or crossing into the Hebrew of thought. We're a Jordan. We're a Jordan bridge. And so now how do you create that level of alchemy? That's why you got the Eastern. That gives you the wood and the metal. They changed the earth from wood and metal. Now the reason why is because wood comes out of the earth, right? And if you have it long enough, you can create stuff through what I just said: fire, earth, air, and rain. Those alchemists helps create a metal. That's why we got the Iron Age. So this is why a lot of the iron people are now describing their lives, and we're now starting to feel like iron people. But if we know different type of breathing techniques, we can push out the impurities that we call metal or aluminum out of the body. And as well, that metal or the aluminum cause some type of oxide or oxidation in the body, right? And now those are impaired gases inside the body. And we have to, as my brother just did there, he flexed his fingers as muscles to pull those what we call cramping or stiffness in our body. The more we have oil in the body, the more, just like a car, it's like oil. The oil helps the motor run. So without the oil, we kind of basically are falling down short or becoming a tin man through the colds and uh, 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 impurities that he just said earlier about dis-ease. You dis-ease yourself. So it's definitely a lot of different type of breathing techniques. And as me and my brother was saying earlier, breath for a reason.
Okay, okay. I greatly appreciate this. I greatly appreciate this. Now, I know Buddha E gonna probably go in a little. Well, both of y'all can go in a little more on this. It says healthy diet can improve your concentration, attention span, and mental recall. So, can you elaborate that on a little bit as far as what things are good for the brain, what is brain foods, and different things of that nature?
You got like you know, like what we talk about nuts and how those nuts actually help. First you could soak them versus just eating them. That's the other thing because they're dehydrated nuts. We all got dehydrated nuts coming from all different types of the areas. So now we got to put the hydration back into the nuts so that when we eat it, it don't become acid and start to have giving us acid reflux because we have reflux energy in the body sometimes when we put things that's not coexisting on a level that is still mature. So some of it is like at a state of saying immature or not just saying immature, it's just been stagnated in time. So when we come up with powdered foods, dried foods, any of those things that are necessary, you say I could use it, but if you use it and it's not going to be with the right intent, it's still not useful. So now you got to actually soak some of those nuts. Don't actually eat it right off the shelf. Do some preparation with those type of things. As far as oxygen from those that help your brain activity. So if you want more brain activity, and that's one thing, just eating. The other is, as we were saying, breathing. And as you see my brother, how he's sitting in posture, his body is sitting erect. And this is for our children. This is for our mothers. This is for us as men. We have to sit erect to become all the energy that we need to stay on an optimistic level because he's not crushing none of his organs while he's sitting in this format. So if you're eating this way, if you're getting ready to read a book, certain things of that nature, or you just want to just be entertained, your body can accept and now get to its highest level when you're sitting at this point like that.
Indeed, indeed. You have anything, Trey?
Oh yes. So to start off with some basic categories we would have for states of mind. You talked about foods and states of consciousness. So the three main categories that it's most popularly used would be dull, agitated, and lucid. So you got dull categorized food, foods that agitate, and foods that create a lucid state. So in the dull state, that's usually dealing with red meat and dairy, and starches. Those are usually your dull foods. Now, when you get into your agitated food, that's usually foods that are stimulating, like very very stimulating. So that's usually your spices.
Mhm.
And then when you get into your lucid foods, that'll be more your foods with more color, deeper in with beta carotene or deeper color. So that either be your greens, or that could be your if you want to get into like red cabbage,
Mhm.
or anything that has an actual what they call a proper color. Because there's a lot of foods and stuff that people eat that have false colors in them. So say
Mhm.
like the things that are pale, that's not natural for it. That means it's bleached.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, so when you say bleached, I was gonna do a show about since 1997, most countries or other areas banned U.S. chicken because of the bleach and chlorine and different things of that nature. How does chicken affect the overall behavior patterns or health of most people? Do you think?
Mm. That's a good one because search since 1970s. Well, let's go with 1940s. 1940s, there was the leaky gut issue, right? And in the 1940s, they found out how we basically been. from a processed way of eating created an actual hole in our intestines, and that in the intestines will basically rip or rupture, and it will cause stones inside the intestines. And this will always happen when, of course, eating red meat. So it was the idea of getting away from the red meat. Uh, Once we found out that they were using it more as a process in the restaurant, status, I had to go into the school setting with the children in pre-K. And so as I was getting to kindergarten and actually getting into the first grade, I started to see what's being put in the cafeteria and it's on the plate. So it had me start to look at the word quote unquote African American. What is African American food? And so major one they throw up is chicken. You know what I'm saying? So but yet there was a squabble in the 1970s that they didn't want Church's chicken in New York. And I was like, why? A popular name like that, and then there's chicken. Why? Why so wrong? What's wrong with that? Well, they were sterilizing it, and so they make it basically man couldn't reproduce again if he was to continue eating this chicken, and then he also was getting side effect by that chicken, and that was in it, as Church's chicken. Now we're talking about something that was way back then, and here it is. We're in 2000, and I'm just getting the research. They'll tell you in today's society that when it comes down to someone who takes something out, they'll see if anybody's going to argument it, and they'll see if they can put it back in 50 years from now. And if you don't argument it, they'll just keep it going. Right. So, needless to say, 50 years later, they put a Church's chicken right back in that area that they was over there debating, and they accepted it. So there's a lot that within today's time, the metamorph of chicken, from when it was a really small, skinny-looking chicken to now this is big old fat chicken that they've been putting all types of, pumped up cell energy in it that we really don't know what type of, because it was farmers that was selling a lot of their product from the ground. Now it's farmers that domesticate the animals to be farming. So it's no longer ground products that they're coming out of the ground. They're actually just, herding or domesticating animals to sell or to cook and these type of things. So it does really make a big wager on should we really be eating so much of this? And is there a moderation towards it? And I get it because that's opposite of the red meat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go too hard on. I'm gonna let my brother speak
on that. Okay, so give thanks for passing on knowledge and wisdom you just passed on. So with chicken, it's more so about, like I said, how it's handled. So we have things out there that we have certain cultures or certain so-called religions that speak on certain things, like whether they want to be Islamic and say halal, or if they want to get into a Hebrew and do a kashrut, or what they call kosher. Now you see that on a lot of packages. On certain packages that let you know if they're certified organic or let you certified kosher or certified halal, which means that how was that animal killed? Mm-hmm. How was it graduated? So the animal, if it was killed swiftly and it didn't suffer, that's what they want to know. They want to know, did that animal or did that chicken produce any stress hormones that's going to transfer into their body or their spirit? Right. So really, it's not about the chicken itself. It's more about how the chicken is prepared or how it's handled. And what conditions can we have any kind of factual information to say what was the source or how it was raised or how it was handled? Because we know that transfers to our mental, to our spirit. Now the stress hormones, the so-called stress hormones or teacher hormones, they release what? They release cortisol. Yeah. So a lot of times with chicken or eating animals or red meat, they have cortisol that's still sitting inside of the meat. It's ingrained in the meat. And then whenever we consume it, that cortisol is also released into our bloodstream.
Also to add on to this topic, I saw a commercial. I think I shared it with Buddha E. Canola oil or oil that most people cook chicken or fry stuff in was motor oil at once. Did y'all know that? Yeah, it was literally motor oil.
Now you got me deep because you threw that at me, and I didn't know. Still, to go further into that, it's still cotton. It's still cotton oil. So they'll put cotton oil, let's say the UTZ, UTZ. I'm eating up on it, and I'm looking at cotton oil. I'm like, I never heard of that before. But it's because you're looking at what types of oils. It do play a lot in the reference to how much that we're eating this oil, from vegetable oil to canola oil, and we're getting comfortable with this oil. But like as you stated, the oil is engine oil. So when we're saying, oh, I'm eating healthy, and now you just put engine oil in your food, I mean, you just had a good salad and you put the chips. I do it myself sometimes. Right. So I know voluntarily I'm putting some engine oil in me. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad you threw that out there, because that's another way to lead back to, because I'm thinking I'm safe with cotton oil. But I was like, what? Hey, I don't know nothing about it. So when that aligned it to the canola oil and the vegetable oil, I was already in tune with those two things. It's just now I could add another part to my, to my look. So give thanks to that one, bro.
Yeah, give thanks for that wisdom, bro.
You got something, Trey?
Oh, to add on to as far as the preparation of the meat, because that's the part you're adding the oil.
Yeah, you're talking about the oil.
Or the oil, right? So it's similar to the idea of also people who some of us who put petroleum on our skin or in our hair. So if a person is using petroleum, you gotta know how to look for those things and other food preparation or ingredients.
Yep.
You gotta remember, even if we put it in our head, we're still eating it, we're still digesting it. So sometimes we definitely got to go beyond oral digestion when it comes to people.
Just like that mineral oil from the baby Johnson & Johnson, putting that on your baby when you're really causing cancer. Powder on the baby when you're really causing cancer to the baby.
Woo. We definitely gonna have a part two, as far as we're gonna do chemicals, chemical warfare. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna call it that. Okay, gentlemen. As far as drinks, what can we drink to help our brain? I got kombucha, turmeric tea. Is it any other things that you'll suggest on your top list? As far as regularly, things we could drink without stressing over it. It's nothing crazy in there, and it'll help our brain function or my mind function.
Yeah, chamomile, ginger. Sometimes you can go with the well, as far as a shot, it's so potent. So what's that? What, lemongrass?
Yeah, lemongrass.
Lemongrass as a shot. Not don't drink it as like a cup size, but just a shot of.
If you're a moringa person,
yep.
Spirulina. I know as far as the feminine energy, she can't drink too much on the moringa, but the spirulina will help, especially those who are having birth. Barley green, that barley wheatgrass. Barley wheatgrass will help. High vitamin C potency that'll help. So if you like, let's say a person that goes to, let's say, Food Line or something like that, and you're looking for something to go over there and get that green goodness. That actually has a lot of good nutrients in it you could work with. I wouldn't say don't drink it like that's your only thing to drink. I would just do it in sparingly as possible, because it comes down to it. You got to do your own fruits and the connection to your vegetables, if that's what you want to keep the alignment going. I noticed that if you check your zodiac sign and look up cellulose salt, DNA, raw DNA foods, cellulose salt, you'll find out there's a good amount, a plethora of foods that you more than likely are eating. You just didn't know that they have the salt intake that you need every day. Because there's a magnesium, zinc, iron. It becomes deficient after a while if you're not eating these things, and you're walking around and you running around and you jogging around and you're doing all this exercise. You want to work and you placements for it. So we need more electrolytes. So we do electrolytes to give you what we call electrocytes in your body. So if you get neutrinos to transmitters in your body, is from basically the telomeres are from your food. The subatomic atoms that can basically create a optimistic value in yourself. The more you're, like my brother was speaking on it earlier, the more you color foods, the more your brightened day starts. It's not a dull day. It's not
Mm,
an agitated day. It's only because you ate dull foods and agitated foods.
mhm. I got a great one for you. Which one is more powerful, the conscious mind or the unconscious mind, and why?
Yeah. Okay, I would have to add something to that one. So
Come on with
the
it.
conscious the conscious mind is more powerful and the excuse me more forceful, and the unconscious mind is more
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, because I would say that too, and how he would throw that out there because I I didn't start out vegan, and I couldn't express it to everybody else to be vegan. That's through the walk. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone has their own walk. So
Parts
yeah,
of
go
it.
ahead.
Brother, when you say unconscious mind, I went with the route of you talking about different realms of the mind as far as subtlety. So are you talking about
Yes, yes.
that way? Yeah, so yeah, my unconscious mind, not unconscious, conscious, but more like the deeper realms of the mind.
Oh, I mean, it still would be that
Okay.
because really, that subconscious is where the unconscious comes from. So we wouldn't know unconscious unless it's already based already, and that comes from a subconscious way of thinking. So once you're discovering it, you now conscious. You're now aware of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, me and my brother was having a discussion about uh, the shadow, right? The shadow could be 25%, and you okay with that. But then when it's 75%, you kind of shaky, you kind of scared,
Yeah.
kind of intimidated. When the shadow's 100%, you can't see it. So now you could be in panic mode. Yet that same shadow was the 25%, and that same shadow been with you all along. It's under your feet. When the sunlight hits you, you're not afraid of your own shadow. But just like this dog that was barking, he afraid of the small dogs, and he's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? And there's two of them, so it's intimidation. We have to look at it. Might be the opposition that makes it greater. You know what I'm saying? It might be the opposition that makes it greater. Yet it's not saying it's 50-50. That's why there is a state of what we call it. I just said it earlier,
Right.
the subconscious.
Right.
So it'd be like 33, 33, 33 versus half and half.
This may be a rhetorical question. However, is it counterproductive to exercise but have a non-holistic diet? Because I often see a lot of people that they go to the gym and different things of that nature, but they don't have nutrition counselors or nutritional coaches to align their cellular structure. So, what's more important, the alignment of our cellular structure, or and how does that help our physical mass or muscles and different things of that nature?
That's a tricky question because you got someone that will either have to know how your habitat is to help you adjust that, and they would have to actually be like kind of more of a blood type, zodiac type. It would be hard to actually answer that without having to be completely accurate because there's certain things that people had to look for within them to get their muscle mass. I would have to talk to my body in order for my body to actually enhance. So there's certain things that
Mm,
on the average, we might not be able to give that other person to say, well, this is how you do it, because we might not know. They themselves would have to go through it. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, just like as the walk that I was stating on earlier, I had to become unconscious to start to become conscious. I had bumped my head. 5 minutes took me out 5 years. So I had to
mm,
wake up, say, wait a minute, what was I eating? Oh, this is why I got what is it called? Amnesia. This is why these things, and it was high blood pressure. So once I found the unconscious to the subconscious, then I started becoming to this conscious state. And not even to say that I'm still conscious, it's a consciousness. So it's constantly something that's giving me this another now new awareness. And I'm saying, oh, I didn't know that. And it's good to know that because you didn't know it just a minute ago. You know what I'm saying? So as far as a person that wants to work out, um, they might not know it until they start knowing it. And so it just depends on, like I had a brother who's a bodybuilder. He ended up with a heart attack, Now the reason why he had a heart attack because he was eating the meat or so much of the meat and lesser of the actual plant food that's supposed to help balance that meat. So since he was putting on the applicable, I need the meat in reference to get the muscle, he ended up getting more muscle. But now the muscle was clogging his arteries, and now his veins is having a problem because they need air. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you get the blood flow, but now you get the blood to be too thick. So now it is about how do you balance either you finding out how to balance yourself or somebody who's aware of that in that particular. Like I said, it might be your zodiac, might be your blood type, it might be your attitude, because you might be eating comfort food. You might be mad, and that's why you went to work out in the first place, and you still go tomorrow and you mad again, and you said this is how I work out, and then you put the music on, and so now you're doing a gamma fight. That's what I was saying about the gamma. Gamma is the fifth not known in the four hemispheres. The gamma is what was placed there in front of us. We don't know it, but it's the microwave, it's your phone, it's your AC you kicked on, it's all the electronics that's around you, it's your surround music. You know what I'm saying? So that gamma can be like your ground, and now you're being grounded by gamma the whole time. So, like you said, you could be eating microwave food, you just worked out, and now you got more cancer, and you don't wonder how did it spread. You're spreading it. So now it's the idea of looking at non-cancerous foods. I apologize. It might took too long on that. Go ahead, bro.
No. You good. I wanted to go ahead, Trey, because I want that. That's very important because a lot of our youth and a lot of our elders and people of melanated or copper tone indigenous are getting misdiagnosed because they're actually giving themselves the cancer, so to speak. They're giving themselves the disease, so to speak, whether it's cosmetics or nutrition. Go ahead, Trey. My fault, man, because that's really irritating. But go ahead, because they made a campaign out of this cancer thing. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Yeah, good thanks for that, E. So, what I would say to that, as a general question, the way you presented was pretty general. So I would
Yeah.
say, as a general question, I would answer like this. I would say that is with the life force still has to be cultivated mechanically. So if a person is eating healthy, but they haven't found a way to healthily express it or channel it, then it's just gonna be still gonna be like a supercharged implosion.
That's it.
It's the same thing with a person's emotional state. When a person starts to get to the point where like, all right, I want to eat more healthier, or more holistic, living, what happens is it'll take the emotional state, supercharge it. So the
Mm,
mechanics, whether that's whether if it's some kind of sports, calisthenics, aerobics, cardio, um, they at least have a way to release it. And there's a way they can do that without there's certain people that will get without eating as healthy as they should. They can also still get the heat built up and get the impurities pushed out through the mechanical exercise.
And
mm.
it's just what you brought up. It's about breathing. So if I can get that breathing to either speed up or strengthen my breathing, I'm actually exercising.
Right.
So if you know, just like to say the word exorcist,
I'm listening.
just like to say the word exorcist. That's another reason why even what's that sister she just got put in Holly Berry. She's put in a movie with exorcist, but yet to have her in this movie is showing this is the streamline of how we gotta exercise our
Right.
energy out because it's about expression. It's coming out of you. So, people go into the gym. It might be mainly because they're frustrated. It might be mainly because they might be even tired of their body and they want to do something about it. And it's still based on frustration. So now, is it healthy that you're going to exercise? Not saying, well, I hate my body, I'm working out. You're not giving yourself the optimistic side. You can now give yourself pessimistic side, which meaning you worked out, but now you're expecting the higher part. You looking at your muscles to be there already, and it was like we just got started. What you doing? So your body could be fighting you while you're still wanting to do this because it needs to work out. It needs a workout part, right? It
Right.
needs a breathing part so that it can get those muscles up. but it also has to break down the muscle. So it's a time where you need to recharge from working out. So you have to know those spaces. So if to say you were to continue, you wouldn't say, well, I'm gonna stop. Man, I feel like stopping for a whole week, and then you come back to it again. Now it's like, well, wait, what you doing? Your body not even now, not in a what we call the regimen or a training mode to say, okay, now let's work back out. We ready. You know what I'm saying? You got to give your body time. So it might be you're ahead of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Or you might be right on time with yourself, or you're not giving yourself enough. And those are like the three on the basic level of how you can help yourself if you figure out where you're at and what you're
Okay,
doing.
I
Oh,
got
the
a
other thing,
Go
one
ahead,
more.
go ahead. My fault.
17 trillion cells. You have over seven. I'm gonna say that again. 17 trillion cells. One more time. You have over 17 trillion cells. So that
A
means what?
trillion.
Every year is your birthday, right? Well, every day you should be speaking to those 17 trillion cells. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get stronger. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get stronger. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get stronger. Right? You do that every day, and I guarantee you that next birthday you pop up, all 17 trillion cells. Now, you can prove me wrong. However, you got to still talk to your body to show me that this is the proof that you used it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how you find out 17 trillion cells can redevelop. All you have to simply do is give it the optimistic that it can change. Now the rest will do itself. You just got to give it that motivation, though.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. I think I have a statement question for the next one. As far as the ego, does the ego get a? Because it seems like to me the ego gets a bad rap. Does the ego reside in the mind? How does that play a role? And is the ego always a bad thing?
I mean, ego. All right, so if I got to the corner and there's a car coming and I know I gotta get across the street. The light is red. I'm gonna either stand here the longest and wait, and this is gonna be my ego thing, or I'm gonna cross the street. Now, if I say, man, forget this light, I'm crossing this street. Now I gotta be either faster than this car, or I'm gonna be waiting till that car go by so I can get past. This is still an ego state. I'm gonna have to need enough ego to run past that car without getting hit. Now there might be a side effect. It might be another car coming. So now I can't have too much ego thinking I get past this car and not look the other direction. So with ego, you got to have balance. The ego is still like a shadow. It still gives you balance, yet you got to have balance to it as well. You know what I'm saying? Like if the room is completely dark, I got to put my hands out in order to find my way around an unfamiliar room because I don't want to fall into nothing or I don't want to trip. So I might put my foot out a little slower than I would when with my ego and I can see the light. I'm good. I don't have to really, you know, use my eyes now. I can use all my other parts. So this is really your mind is your ego. So your mental is based on your ego. Now, how do you utilize it? Just like I was telling my brother, I said,
Ooh,
if we
your mind is your ego. I wish I had some bombs to drop on that one. That was a good ball right there. Go ahead.
if you
Brick
jump,
and
right?
mortar ball. Go ahead.
Uh, if you jump, are you on the air or in the air? That's a question for you right there.
On the air or in the air. I'm gonna say you on the air, and then
All
if you
right,
get
so
up
now
high enough, you within the
you
air.
go, I'm on the air, just like to say I'm on the earth, right? But it's not saying that's a bad thing. It's just showing you how we look at relativity. If I'm in
Mm.
the earth, right? I jump up, I'm still in the earth, but when I jump up, I'm in the air. Don't we say we in the air?
Yes, absolutely
So
indeed.
there's ways to look at this without busting our ego, basically.
Mm.
But
Okay. So okay. I would say on the ego being a part of the mind was a part of the way you stated the question. So the ego is what it refers to as the personal mind. So yes, it is a part of the mind, it's just that it's a part of the personal aspect of the mind. It's a job to say this is me as a person, and then this protects the interests of my person. So it's not an enemy at all. It's not a bad route. It's not something that's necessarily negative. However, it's something that's supposed to be in place, not in charge.
There you go.
So
That
then
is.
once you put it in charge, but as long as you keep it in place, it works to your best interest.
Um,
Uh,
as he stated, I'm gonna state myself correctly. He said part of the mind is ego. Not
Correct.
when I said ego is the mind, I wasn't using the egotistical. So just to keep myself in where he at with it, yeah, that's what he's saying. Part of the mind. Good thanks, brother.
okay, so I had some old notes. Well, timeless no timeless notes, and it says super ego. It says shapes character and ability to act in accordance with their own norms. And then it says shadow ego. It says part of the ego people want to hide from themselves or others. So is that the shadow work or is yeah? What do y'all have to elaborate on that as far as the shadow ego?
Again?
Is that a thing?
No, give me that
Is
first
it the
part you said.
shadow ego?
No, not
Okay, it
shadow.
says super ego shapes character and ability to act in accordance with their own norms.
Mm, that's pretty dope. I could say that I would say that has clarity in it because um, dealing with ego, like I said earlier, you got to actually do something that it could be regular, crossing the street. You know what I'm saying? And to other people, that'll be super because they're not used to crossing the street themselves. They might have a mom holding their hand, or they might have somebody else who helps them. Some of us are not uh, in the same capabilities as others. So if I'm blind, it's a challenge for me to cross the street. I got to get somebody to help me with that, and I got to humble myself enough. Dang, the fish jumped out of the water. I got to humble myself enough to be like, "Excuse me, can somebody help me get across the street?" So it'll have to, like, the super ego will have to get to a point where somebody's going to actually help me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to just go to this corner and not get no help. I know somebody's gonna be out here eventually. So I'll even have the patience as my ego to become super within the norms, right? And do something still normally as crossing the street, yet I'm acting according to nature that nature helps me and I'm gonna get that provision. It's like saying having good luck all the time. And that you said about the
Shadow ego.
shadow where they do what again?
It says, let's see, where was that? It says part of the ego people want to hide from themselves and others.
I can get that as well because it's just like embarrassment. Sometimes we have so much that we feel we're capable of that it could be embarrassing to show somebody else when they don't have it. So now it's like you could be overshadowing certain people with your ego. Let's say, that you got yourself all right. Now you're going into a room that still ain't all right, yet you know what's wrong in that room. So now you could get mad or upset about it. Yet while you get mad and upset about it, you start blaring it off at the people that's having a good time in that room. Now they start feeling like you the problem in the room. So it becomes a point where some of us, when we're realizing before I put that chess piece out as a pawn, let me not even put that piece out and just keep to myself. Let me just go into my room. Let me just go into my shelter. Let me just stay away from society. Yet that's not solving, your issues that you're having in society. You still got to find a way to still deal with your shadow, even if it's in a room that, more shadows are overbearing. You know what I mean? Certain places you're going to end up having to travel, and you got to have enough patience to deal with, other egos, because you got super ego, as you just said, and you got a shadow ego. So certain people might not even be in the room talking. They just are the quietest one in the room. Yet they're the one that everybody noticed the most because they're not talking. So that's another way of seeing it as, okay, well, that person is negative. And he's like, well, that person ain't negative. That person is reserving their energy. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You good, Trey?
Okay, so we're still dealing with the address of the super ego, right?
Mhm.
All right, so
Super ego or shadow, whichever one you want to go in on.
okay, so super ego. I started here first. Super ego is basically the spiritualized ego. So you have your personalized or carnal ego, then you have a part where it elevates a little bit more or it gets more subtle. It becomes like the spiritualized ego. And the spiritualized ego and what it refers to as the super ego can be very dangerous because it's almost like the point you make with that is that if you got a certain weapon, but when you supercharge that weapon, it becomes more dangerous. So that's how it is with the ego. Where the ego becomes spiritualized, the person is saying, "Okay, I'm on a spiritual path, and I'm kind of spiritualizing my life." When you spiritualize the ego, when the person becomes more spiritualized, they get a higher charge, a stronger charge. So the ego is actually safer in the hands of a denser consciousness than it was with somebody with higher consciousness. Because when you have a higher consciousness, you have more access to higher cosmic forces. So if a person's still egocentric, and they got access to those higher forces like that, that's actually more dangerous.
Okay, good stuff.
Actually, so
I'm
it's actually
listening.
okay for a person to be uh, not woke, like based on a person that's woke but still have a lot of ego. That's actually worse.
Ooh. Mm. Okay,
Yeah,
but before I go, okay,
Hold on,
go
wait.
ahead.
That kind of goes along with what I was just stating. He gave you the super ego in a unconscious form that does not is not aware of their subconscious form.
Mhm.
When I gave it to you in the beginning, I said a blind man, that's him unconscious, yet he's relying on his subconscious. That's what makes it super.
Mhm,
Because he's not
mhm.
using the senses on average like the average people are. So that's a helpful thing, as well as he said earlier, if he's unaware of that, it's just like doing the shadow ego and putting that with the ego.
Mm. Okay, here we go. You touched on the perfect. We have I have down here. We have the alter ego. That's a person's clone or second or third or fourth or fifth self. How many ever clones it is. Then we have. I often tell melanin or copper tone indigenous people, whatever, when we get wrapped up into distractions, what we call entertainment or different things, I say that's what they're supposed to do. Most of those entertainers are into their what? Their alter ego, their clone selves. You know, whether they're actually physically clone, they clone Tyrone clone, or they just tapping into a certain different version of themselves. So I got a couple of things as far as triggers for alter ego. It says stress, memories, strong emotions, alcohol, or substance abuse, special events such as maybe funerals or I don't know if they're special, but and then you got special situations. Um, I wanted to go into cognitive dissonance. Uh, First of all, what is cognitive dissonance, and how does a person get to that state, so to speak?
Psychosis negrosis. Psychosis negrosis. That's the my brother minister of information, he threw that out there, psychosis negrosis. But we actually at a point psychologically, uh and that's what me and Trey was getting on, was about Zip Coon and Jim Crow effect. Like a lot of the 1800s was given to us through the 1900s about Jim Crow, but the Zip Coon, that's a uptown, new beat, city slick talking, walking conversation is put with the South, dirty South, muddy Mississippi, yet it's even further than that, it's Florida mentality. So when we're put into psychosis, negrosis, and word negrosis, stimulated from a Portuguese determination of how to put definitions on people. I have a big, wide, broad uh, radio bandwave of how inferior or superior has been put uh, in front of us. Inferior or superior has been put in front of us. So now that we are actually giving each other those side effects, that distance from being a distance or distal to even my very bright skinned brother to the albino brother that I was saying, like, with Nat Turner, even with Malcolm X, there is the ruddy skin of how we might have at this point, or should know, a lot of us have been separating each other from what we say, this is this is the house brother, and this is the field brother. And so there's these concepts that when we're walking in the room and I'm on the train or something, I say, peace, brother. And the other brother's like, I ain't recognizing him because then I'm not part of you know what I'm saying,
Right.
where I'm already at. And we get certain concepts of privileges that they're not privileges, but is looked to be as privileges. We all have rights, right? But yet some of us live in a world where we think these privileges are better than your own rights. And so, yeah, that's where you get the cognitive dissonance from. People who are not wanting to recognize their culture for how they're actually in a different status quo. But it's based on a lot of nationality situations.
Great stuff. Trey, I'm listening, G. Or
Okay.
Nehru.
So cognitive dissonance is whenever there's a conflict between two or more ideas. So if a
Mm.
person has the cognitive dissonance, usually it results in some kind of pressure or tension, and it can go from a headache, migraines, to like I said, even evoking a certain emotion. 'Cause a lot of times when people experience cognitive dissonance, the alter ego kick in because they start time traveling based on emotional strength.
Mm.
So whenever a person experiences something in so-called real time, they time travel back to a time where they felt something similar and it struck the same kind of nerve.
Ooh, ooh. Is
So
that quote unquote euphoria?
yes, yes.
Mm, excellent stuff. Okay, a couple more notes. Aspects of the mind. It has mind, and then it parentheses it has mon, receives impressions from the outside world. Then you have intellect, which is Buddha, identifies form. Then you have the third one, which is the ego, that associates and aligns itself with form. And then you have feeling that attaches us emotionally to the form. So, how important is our thoughts? Is that the unseen power? Is that Jesus? Is that Buddha? Is that Yahweh? Is that the power from within, so to speak, that a lot of great speakers talk about? How do we harness that? How do we activate that and not give it to other deities or different things and make that be the focal point?
I mean, you got eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. That's what the Most High gave us. So with that, melanin is strongest source on your body to still give you collective DNA. Uh, just like, you know, we think it's called time. Time is not really time. Time is emit. Once you see the reverse of it, you know what I mean? The word is EMIT. So it's really about your time. If you know how to time yourself, uh, as we were talking about Noble Drew Ali, and they said, well, what do I actually study? And he was like, study yourself. And then, like the question would be, well, what do I do after that? Study yourself some more. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, and I could take that in as a reference because we have to constantly, me and Trey, we'll constantly have a conversation about things that we see that come to pass being present, you know what I mean? And then some things that's present is really present, and that's the best gift ever, to still starting to see where your present is, because you got self-acknowledgement through a lot of the walks in the universe that is omniversal, you know what I mean? And it gives you an omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent feeling that now you can value that validity. And because it's not a robbery thing and it's not a stolen thing, there's going to be people that are not knowing how to gravitate to it. So truth isn't for everyone. You know what I mean? Like truth is already there, yet it ain't for everyone. So that's why it's hidden in plain sight. Dang, that was good confirmation. A big shadow went over our body just within seconds. It was like shoo shoo, and it moved so
So
fast, but it was like looked like a bird over our body, but it was a plane. But that's another
so
example of
when
truth. Yeah.
so when people say look for like mind people, is that mean in certain aspects? I mean, is that a realistic thing?
That goes back to the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. That's what I was saying. The
Yeah.
Most High gave us all the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the mouth to see what, taste what, talk what, feel what, smell what, even the thought, think what. You know what I'm saying? So now it's really based on your feelings. But as my brother stated earlier, you can come out of the feelings, find your emotions. You can come out of them emotions
Mm.
and find out past that. You know what I'm saying? Because there is another realm.
I'm
That's
listening,
like
Trey.
saying
What you got?
ether.
That herbal. My fault. My fault.
Okay, right.
Now go
So,
ahead, E. Go ahead. I'm listening. Okay. Okay.
oh, okay. All
No,
right.
I
So,
was saying I said ether, which gives you a casual body to know why you think
Hmm.
you hear it, which gives you spiritual, uh, solistic or spiritual connection to your universal and your galactic body. We don't know spiritual and galactic yet until we get universal. So between those two, how do you get a cosmic body? Some of us have to actually go through a comet, and that's basically saying a comma or a coma. You got to get hit in the head even to where you like, oh,
Mm.
oh, now you get your awakeness. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned Haile Selassie. Who is Haile Selassie? What's the importance and what's the correlation in of the of the background?
okay, so Haile Selassie was the last active emperor of the monarch, the long reigning monarch in Ethiopia. So they put him down as the 225th descendant in a line from a union of King Solomon and Empress Makeda. So otherwise, in the Bible or English version, they call it Queen of Sheba. So they'll say King Solomon and Queen of Sheba's union, and then they had a son who's known as who became the coronation name Millet the First, or Ibn Hakim if a Muslim. Or for a Muslim, they're gonna say Ibn Hakim, which is son of a wise man, or they're gonna say Menelik, which is the same, son of a wise man. So then from that lineage on, they started that particular Solomonic dynasty, and then you get all the way through succession lineage, and then you get to Haile Selassie, being the 225th descendant, which he got coordinated as the emperor or king of kings or Negus Nagas. Back initiated the ceremony back during November 2nd on the Gregorian calendar, November 2nd, 1930. And the ceremony takes, coordination ceremony for Ethiopia would take traditionally 9 days. So from November 2nd to November 11th, we just stick with the first particular day of the crown or the coronation, and then they celebrate it as on November 2nd. So today, being November 2nd, they always commemorated certain particular communities commemorate the coronation of Haile Selassie. Now the significance of it is um, when Haile Selassie, first of all, I'll break down his name. So that's his baptismal name. His born name is Tafari. It's Tafari Makonnen. However, in Ethiopian tradition, he was born into nobility of noble blood. So when you're a noble child, your name is actually, your title is Lidge. So he was actually Lidge Tafari Makonnen. Then he became Rosh Tafari Makonnen. And then he became a Rosh. Like once he became a Rosh, he elevated to that status. Then he ascended more into Negus, and then Negus Nagas. So he became Negus in 1928. Oh, excuse me, let me go back. He became co-regent to Millet II's daughter. So I'm not gonna go into the other one because you asked me specifically about Haile Selassie. I'm just gonna mention other names. So you had Millet II, who had his successor ended up being his daughter, for certain perspectives, but then you have another successor because usually the tradition was at that time in the 20th century, the 19th century, it was still up to the time where they was like they only preferred to have like the tradition was men, but Emperor II didn't have a son to pass down to pass over the throne to. So he gave it to his daughter. They wanted to let his daughter. But what he did is he personally chose his grandson, which was Lij Yasu. But he was very young at the time, around like 12 or 13 years old, I think. If I'm not mistaken, something very young. I don't want to go left with that, so let's just stick with Haile Selassie. So
you just brought her. You're gonna tie it into the tri-state.
Yeah, I can get to some of that. Just trying to do a background in case anybody who doesn't know who Haile Selassie is. Yeah. So for him, he became co-regent to Emperor Mille II's daughter, which is Empress Zarditu. Right. So you have Zarditu, who became her imperial majesty, translated in English, her imperial majesty, and then they made Haile Selassie or Tafari. They made him the co-regent to her, with basically being set up to take the throne whenever it's time. So they already had him in the intent to take the throne too. In 1960, he became co-regent. In 1928, he became what it would parallel to be a king of his Negus in Amharic. So he became a Negus in 1928, and he became the emperor, which we call King of Kings. So he wore the title that he also a lot of people that referred to him were looking for him to ascend to fulfill a prophecy. So some people were searching in scriptures during that time, back in the earlier 20th century, around the 1920s and 30s, especially members of the UNIA. They were referred to the Garbeyites. So the Garbeyites, a lot of Garbeyites were very steeped in the Bible, and they had heard a phrase from a member, a well-known preacher. Some people mainstream give it credit to Marcus Garvey. However, there's another preacher, a minister, a Baptist minister from Seattle named Reverend James Moore as well, who says, "Look to Africa for a black king to be crowned. In him you will find your redeemer." So whenever he made this phrase, "Look to Africa for a black king to be crowned, in him you will find your redeemer," to that Haile Selassie was crowned in Ethiopia, and it had like it got a lot of publicity, and it was very like it was venerated. There was many people of many different ethnicities from many different nations. Some like reported 72 nations. So they said 72 nations came to witness the coronation and pay homage to him. So of course, you're talking about the early 20th century, or like early 1900s, stuff like that. So you have a lot of openly overt racism and things going on, things similar to caste. So you have people who are getting treated a certain way because they of Africa, they think because of their African descent or things of that nature, like that. But then they see this African king that gets crowned, and it makes like worldwide news. And you got all these European powers, the same people who appear to be oppressing the dark and melanated people of the world. This melanated man gets crowned and coronated in Africa, and all of a sudden everybody's coming to pay homage to him. Yeah, confirmation. So people gonna be curious. They're gonna like, wait a minute, who's this guy? Like, who's this melanated king that these people who claim they're better than us, they claim they're teaching supremacy, and then they're saying, wait a minute, they're coming down to pay homage to this guy over here in this little so-called third world country, and he's African. Like, we're missing something here. Yeah. And what's the significance of his lineage? Yeah. And then they're saying, wait a minute, I thought y'all said JC was white. And then he's supposed to be in the bloodline of Solomon. Root of Jesse, seed of Jesse, root of David, seed of Jesse. Yeah. And then you got a king who rises up in 1930 claiming the same lineage and have official titles.
Have the same book?
Right. So I said, okay, hold on. I thought it said in Revelations he will have the title Kings of Kings, Lord of Lords. Got him. And then whenever Selassie got, or the tradition of Ethiopia, especially those who come from the Solomonic dynasty, that's the title they get: Kings of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquer line of the tribe of Judah. So you actually got a man who officially in history carrying that title, and it's not a belief thing. It's actually official, so they officially manifesting in history. So it's that significance carried throughout the world. People around the world is like, wait a minute. You got to think about it. The Bible is one of the it's a very, very popular book still to this day. I think it's still the bestseller. Now, I'm not saying most read, but the bestseller. So a lot of people revere it. I heard some recent interviews that talk about reverence over literacy. So you don't have a lot of people who literate the Bible, but they have a lot of people that venerate the Bible or revere the Bible. So the people that revere that, they still know certain scriptures they heard over and over again. And a lot of people sought these scriptures out. They read into Revelation, read into Isaiah, and read into Ezekiel and Timothy. I could give exact verses, but that's not quite the point. The point is that they was in the Bible and they read it. They was very steeped in it, well learned in it. You had many people who had read the Bible and they literally gave that their I don't want to call it a testimony because that's only one thing that Mel can give. So I don't want to be like gender biased and said a testimony. But they basically gave their what word would you call that? Let's just say affirmation. So they gave their affirmation that they studied the Bible for a year or 2 or 3 years, constantly. And they said that this man or the sequence of events that took place with that coronation line up to what they seen in scripture. Now, on the other hand of it,
real quick, Trey, apart and self, what is a coronation? Just for the people that's listening later on or whatever.
A coronation is when someone ascends.
You gotta show that shirt.
Oh, okay, all right. So a coronation is still kind of like a political term. Is used definitely for monarchs. So when somebody ascends to a certain stature or throne to become an instrument of the will to direct, I want to call them subjects, but a body of people. So if I could give like a very layman term of what a coronation is, a ceremony. It's actually essentially the coronation itself is a ceremony, and a person gets basically invested in certain power to serve the will of the people. So you definitely don't find the word coronation in politics because politicians don't get coronated. You have to be a statesman.
So would this coronation kind of like be like a inauguration?
Right. See, politicians get inaugurated.
Yeah.
Monarchs get coronated.
That's interesting. Okay, now we're gonna go a little bit more simplistic with this next one. What is your overall elaboration on the mindset or mind state of overall copper tone black people, indigenous people as a group? Like what like currently? I mean, are we more divided than ever? Are we more distracted than ever? What is your observation? Is y'all moving around?
Okay, so that's a lot of breath in that. So that's a lot of breath in that because you're talking about over a billion people.
Right.
So, but overall consensus, I would say that a lot of people we're revolving. Yeah, we're revolving. So depends on a person's vantage point or perspective, what they think is looking like it's getting worse or what they think is looking like it's getting better. So it depends on a person's focal point and intention whatever they see, because you're going to see what you want to see.
Right.
If you look hard enough for negativity, you'll find it. If you look hard enough for positive, you'll find it.
Yeah.
The mind is that powerful. Yeah. So I would say that we're actually on a revolving. I see things that look like it's very distracted. It look like they're very on some pole they're getting degenerating. Then I can see aspects of our culture or our people planet wide as they're regenerating and they're waking up to certain things. So I think they're all waking up generally. You gotta think about it. Whenever we go through certain stages of spiritual transformation, we experience a thing that's referred to as divine madness.
Like how you stated that.
So you're gonna have some people seem like they're going insane, they're going crazy, but really that's actually a good thing because even when you talked about earlier about the ego getting a bad rap, people don't even realize that we have to be careful and be centered and calm whenever we're placing judgment on behavior. Don't make it too harsh or too hasty. Because really, you have to treat that same social so-called illness or social cleansing. That's a social cleanse, it's like the body cleanse. It's all universal, it all corresponds. So if a person is misbehaving, that means they're outwardly expressing it, which means the badness or the badness is coming out, the impurity is coming out.
Oh, confirmation.
Right. So if a person
Social
poses
a
a certain
social cleansing. Go ahead, I'm
right,
listening. My apologies. I held on to that social cleansing.
social cleansing,
To elaborate on that, do,
right.
do does
This
the melanin or do we need a social cleansing, and what does that look like? Like what is that?
right here on the shirt. You see it?
Yes. Yes. So yes.
Okay.
All right, but Lynch, right.
Good
So
example.
so I use a even more, even though we're talking fundamentally, I still use a technical term. We say cleansing, or we could call it purgation.
Mm.
So the self, there's an aspect of spiritual evolution that's called phase called purgation of the self,
Oof.
or purgation. So that's a purge. So you call it a cleanse or a purge. So there's going to be a period of time where a person seems like they have erratic behavior, or they, what I said, like said, divine madness. So it's going to be a time where they're going to be what appears to be misbehavior, but really what they're doing is it's the old infirmities leaving out. It's got to go somewhere.
Mhm.
So there's different cultures have different methods of how they do social cleansing, or how that looks inside of a social structure. And but people shouldn't judge it too hastily, because it depends on what circumstances we in culturally, what environment we in, or whether the person has a so-called safe space to express that, or to get those impurities out without the backlash of interaction with other people or things like that. So some people try to do that in
Retaliation.
solitude, but also that's not too healthy either, because depending on your level of maturity, what you can do in solitude.
Yeah. Because it might not advance. It might just make it more of a disadvantage inside self. We create worlds too, just as much as we can destroy it. What we have to look at more in that aspect is saying repair worlds, because we know about destruction, we know about creation. We just gotta know about reparation and repair. The reparation that most people say reparation. I want something for my work. Well, what was your work? Because maybe you didn't know your worth, and so we have to start analyzing what is your worth inside yourself. And some of it takes like coming to a drum cipher that I do at 3:33 on Sunday at Conscious Planet, and drum it out. We got to drum our hurt to heal. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we end up hitting people when we could just hit the drum.
Right.
Don't hit people, hit the drum. Get it out in a more mature manner, and it's productive versus destructive. You know what I'm saying? If we could have constructive ways of putting our recreation into ways that we see that we creating a mound. We mound builders. So we got to start doing a mound building thing. Not it don't have to just because we all talk, is the talk to get to the walk. Sometimes we do have to talk in order to get to walking, but you got to crawl first. So get us in the room, let the sizzle come out, and then we might eat the food. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about putting all the right ingredients in there to make it sizzle. You know what I mean? Like you got the right proper people in the room, get that childlike ability out versus the childish. Because a lot of us are still stuck in the state of childish. I watched the movie just yesterday, and they were talking about the children are getting older because they're more stiff into their mentality. They're more an adult than they are as a child. We got to still have them having childlike ability. And where that started right here, the Willie Lynch chip. The Willie Lynch chip was created so that we'll always have free labor, like how most people think about Anunnaki and the Elohim concept. They'll say that it's free labor to get this gold from us, but the gold is in our body. We aid you with raw aura. You got an aura energy on your body. So on a collective, your children are working for labor and not working for their rites of passage. That's why they start feeling this way. This is why a lot of them are into the computer world, the Robert world, the Roberto world, Roberta world, where they don't feel like they can say hi or how you doing and have manners, because they've been cut off as eating trick or treat candy to be the Doctor Strange. That's who we are now to them, and we are more than a doctor. We're like every position on the board, from being on the stage, off the stage, being the author, being the publisher, being the writer, being the one who has to push it out on the streets as a newsboy, or the delivery man, the postman, whatever you end up seeing your positions are. That's there that us as men, we served it. That's why I said man, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind.
That's right.
Now, if this put in your face, this is the reason why the Willie Lynch chip has to be destroyed. We have to reactivate ourselves by the anti-Willie Lynch chip. You got to chip this off. It's on your body. It's been on you. You've been shelled up for a minute. So now is the shell is your shield. How do you been healed? If you haven't seen the heel of yourself, you put a D on it, that's called healed. But you've been haltered at a heel too. You've been stopped. You've been haltered. You've been pushed to a point where you're now at the edge. We call it no ledge. You have to know, we all have to now start accepting our knowledge for what it is, right? And if I could utilize it, pass it on to the next one, it becomes wisdom. But if I cannot put that to the next one, I need to get rid of it. I need to put it to the side, get rid of it. It's no use for no one. It's only called knowledge to a certain point. It's only going to get but so young because it got to get older. Yet, if it gets older and it's not gaining any wisdom, that's still older. It's not elder. Some of us are able to now get into our elder state, like where I'm at. I want to see as my brother bigger than me. You see what I'm saying? I want to see my younger generation go further than where I've went. I'm riding a bike to be an example so that I can see my people getting where they're supposed to be at. I love enjoying the bike. Right. Now, some of us are going to start to say, hey, I like riding the bike too. But I'm not pushing it to say everybody need to ride a bike. That's not good. You know what I'm saying? That's where the Oko came from, Oko. And now we're not even becoming culture to what we do. And we can still do that. We have time. It's called emit.
That's right. Hey, give thanks, brother. So I would say to add on back to that too is that behavior I was talking about is similar to we talking about cleansing. You asked a question about cleansing, so it's similar to if a person starts to emit mucus, right? When the person emits mucus, we don't assassinate the person's character behind it. We look at it as a natural phenomenon. Now, some people's perception think that the person is under the weather. They say, "Oh, this person's under the weather." The programming. It depends on their programming. So me, I know that that's detoxing. That means that when they thought everything was normal, they was actually under the weather the whole time. Right. And the body's going through the healing process or the cleansing process to get it out. That's right. But some people are taught to think that now my body is going down. Right. But that's the ego perspective. The ego starts to say, well, I ain't quite functioning the way I normally would function. Yeah. So I must be SICK. Right. Or I'm under the weather. Something's wrong. No, like this is the body now getting that infirmity or that impurity out. Right. Just like a pimple. Right. Don't pop it. Let it keep the process going, and it's gonna go back down. But if you pop it, now you got an ugly scar on your face. You did that. Right. Now consumerism are gonna say it's very devaluing, demoralizing, dehumanizing. So consumerism is another aspect of like hypercapitalism. And basically what happens in that kind of structure, it says that now that you're not functioning the way I want you to function, I'm gonna do away with you.
I got you. My part and self, consumerism. Right. Consumerism. Should we be even engaged in any of that as far as whether it's voting, whether it's, how has that played on the minds of the psychosis of most Black, Indigenous, copper tone people? Like, that's what I mean as far as I'm seeing a lot of them still hyped about voting, man, and just to me, it's at this juncture, it's a mental illness, man. You know what I mean? For you to just keep being so hyped about something, and there's so many videos out showing it how these people are puppets, gerrymandering, and different things. So it's just, can a person get when they go to like what they call a crazy house? How does a person get that far gone, like that far away?
Once again, that still goes back to that. That still goes back to that divine madness. Yeah. Because once the mind expands to certain horizons, it can't recontract itself. Right. Right. So what happened is a person runs into a wall, but they perceive a wall. Right. They're like, okay, I got these things I'm processing. I had this certain understanding. You understand? Or just going straight up call it understanding. They have that. They say, but what do I do with it? So if a person can't act on something they're conceiving, they eventually turn in on themselves. Right. And it shows up as psychosis or neurosis. Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's why it's important to find what's greater out of the good, you're gonna have greater out of the bad. I was telling him earlier, I said we got this point where we take two magnets and we put it together, and there's only 25% of that is negative. You know what I'm saying? 75% is actually positive. So now that's with that in a reference, it still has a four-way, not just a two-way. So when we say we got positive, we got negative, right? And then we also have optimistic and pessimistic. Now, if I'm negative and I'm pessimistic, I'm that 25%. But if I'm negative and I'm optimistic, that's really the other 25% of the negative. So on the other end, you got
Good
optimistic.
stuff right there. Good stuff. I like that.
You see why it's called 75%, 25%. Now, if I showed the world that 25%, it looks like it's just as great as 75%, you might go towards the 25%. That's the trick. That's the whole trick to the whole actuality of it all. Because negative, there's a positive negative and there's a negative negative. It's not just negative. So when someone says that person is negative, no, it's a certain displacement they might have been put in that causes this person
I
to
need
feel
that
that.
remix. You say it's a what? It's a what type of negative again? It's a what?
The positive negative, and then there's a negative negative. When that
God
positive
damn.
negative is out, they're
Woo.
saying it's more like an optimistic negative versus a pessimistic negative. That's how you got a positive negative and a negative negative. Because if a person said that's just negative negative, what does that mean? Well, you got to see how you're not wanting to come out of it because you're attracting to you as well. Versus saying I could find a optimistic even in my negative, and that's not saying that you're positive yet because you're becoming optimistic. That's the subconscious having this conscious awakeness.
Right.
I got 5%. So we got
If
any
y'all want to
questions?
wrap up or whatever y'all want to do, if y'all want to wrap up with final thoughts.
Yeah. Any closing questions or comments? We can do that real quick.
Do you have any services that you offer? Where can they find you? Buddha E, you already know what it is. Same thing.
Yes. I'm a facilitator, and sometimes I come make public appearances if if invited. If somebody wants me to come to speak at a certain type of event, a meeting, and things of that nature. Besides that, it's a way of life. So I usually just do personal interactions, and people who just kind of like want to catch up to me or whatever, like they get my phone number or something like that, or they want to hit me up on social media. I'm not too active on that, but I do have one. And so my Facebook name is Leroy Williams, and it's Trey in parentheses. For everybody who wanted to try to friend me or anything like that on Facebook.
If you can't catch up with him, I'll definitely if you need me to catch up with him, I can. He's one of my personal brothers. We did a lot of walks together as far as healing our bodies, consulting, a lot of the books that's out there, to even that Conscious Planet becoming like a regimen to even what we do as called a lifestyle and a life. I deal with also facility situations, so I am a facilitator towards the drum. So if you want to learn your left and right hand, as well as a beginner course to Tai Chi and Capoeira. I also want to give you more of an intro towards any type of stretching ability that gives you flexibility. So when it comes down to lifestyle, hit me up as well. I'm at Conscious Planet, 2718 Granby Street. That's on 28th Street. There's also YouTube, TikTok. I'm on. I want to give as much information, a platform for our people, because I got a daughter and a son out here on this walk as well. And I like to see them get what they need to see in this future. So as we're present, we're going to make some presents. You know what I'm saying? Keep gift giving. I give thanks. Precious, $ Precious, PRECIOUSKM. And then there's $Kite, KEETA with an extra Y. So it's KEETAYY. Those are my children. I feed them through what I do, and that's how I'm living through my life. Respect.
Y'all see it going across the bottom of the screen real quick. Trey, do you have a cash app?
No.
Okay. All right. So all right, y'all. Peace. We'll have part 2 coming soon. I appreciate it, Nehrus.
Good time. Respect.
All right. He got another one in the book. That Cosmic Mind UV. Hey, where you need to be. Y'all subscribe, share, and donate. Love y'all. Peace and abundance. Royal Day.